I have a theory that I want to put out there. I believe that Trump, because he mentioned Diddy, and it's not the first time he mentioned that, I think he'll pardon Ghislaine Maxwell, Diddy, and George Santos in the same day to blur the moral lines and to cause chaos. And so there's no singular story that is focused on. Because
makes total sense. Yeah, 100%, right? But over, and there's a straight line on this, and I talked about it in the moment, going back to 2017 on January 20th, when Sean Spicer walked out and stood behind a White House podium and said crowd size A, which was much smaller than crowd size B, was in fact bigger. Mm-hmm. And from that moment on, 50,000 lies, 60, whatever number you want to use, and then those are just Trump's lies, right? And then all the lies that swarm around those lies, right? So the accumulation, literally, mm-hmm. right, social media of millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of lies, mm-hmm. have eradicated the ability of people to see the plain truth right in front of them, whether it's Ghislaine Maxwell and Katie Johnson, whether it's no, there's not a war in Portland. There is a guy in a frog suit and a chicken outfit out there, but it's America, it's Portland, and there's a lot of weird shit going on. And you have National Guard troops arriving from Texas, invading another state, and everything that is happening is at odds completely from the rationale being used to justify every action. And so each day, every day, all day, government officials belligerently get in the face of whoever dares to ask them a question and insist 2 + 2 is 5 and fuck you.
Yeah.
Right? And
eyes green. Deal with it.
Right? And his political approval numbers are collapsing while his power is increasing. And while he's collapsing, the Democratic Party remains absolutely stuck, frozen in place. Normally in a two-party system, politics works like a teeter-totter, right? One side up, the other down, right? Both can suck, but when one goes up, the other goes down. When one goes down, the other goes up. Trump is going down, but the Democrats are not going up. And what's happening is an evisceration of trust completely with all institutions that benefit, in the end, one institution, and that's the one with the most power, the office of president. So it's a very dangerous set of things that are all coming together in this moment. And I can't think of a deeper type of corruption, right, in a society where your political party, the letter you have next to your name, would allow a person to justify in their mind that, oh, I'm going to abide the rape of 1,000 young girls because, well, I think that could benefit me politically, right? And there's truly nothing sicker. And every founding father of the country talked about you have to have some characteristics in a society for democracy to thrive. And no person could objectively look at this country, our country, and see those characteristics in play. We do not live in a virtuous society.
Yeah. I don't know, Steve. It's hard to follow that, but yeah, it's all I don't know what to say anymore. It's been really, really wild to see it all happen. And it happened so quickly. And because I think there are so many people around President Trump who will not push back, who take the ideas. Like, I remember when I was a White House correspondent for ABC, and I remember hearing from a source, President Trump is musing out loud in the Oval Office about wanting to line up and kill all drug dealers like Duerto does, the Filipino president.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, that is outrageous that he would want to do that, right? And everyone, and this was obviously communicated to me because it was outrageous to this source, that hears this. But now I don't think anybody would stop him. I think they'd be like, okay, how do we do it? How do we do it? I don't think someone would call the press. I don't think they'd do anything. I just think we'd just be like, okay, let's get it together. How do we do it? I mean,
there's a Netflix documentary and there's a book, and it's I think the book is called Ordinary Men, and it's about Special Reserve Police Battalion 60. These were German cops, and they become some of the most notorious war criminals and killers, executioners of the Second World War. And I was just talking about this with my wife this morning, is that my first Nazi, right, when I was like, wow, that's a fucking Nazi bad, was from Raiders of the Lost Ark. I was 11 years old, right? So you had your cartoon Nazis. You knew they were bad, but all of the systems, right, of state in Nazi Germany were, what they were doing was legal. It was a death penalty offense to conceal a Jew. And so at any rate, these guys, this police battalion, these were ordinary people who did not want to join the SS, did not want to join the army, did not want to go fight in Poland or Russia or anywhere else. And they joined up in a militarized society to be cops, right? So they wouldn't have to fight. And the commander of these guys was beloved by his men. And he comes out one morning and he says, I have some terrible news. He was crying. And he says, we have terrible orders. We're going to have to, and it was kill a bunch of Jews and civilians. And it was the first time they were going to do this. And in the reporting of this book, they discovered something about Nazi Germany and the SS that was not known, which was that it had always been believed that the orders had to be followed, lest the person following the orders would be killed, right? Kill the Jew or you get killed. It wasn't true. And so the commander gave a pass to the men. He said, if you can't do this, you're excused. There were 15 to 18 guys who got out of the formation. One of the commanders of those men said something nasty, and he was cut off by the major, the overall commander. He said, no, right? This is a matter of conscience. But everybody who did the killing volunteered to do the killing. And they volunteered to do the killing because it was easier to kill than say no to the order to kill. And that
ambition, I'm sure too, they wanted to move up the ranks.
And that is the central lesson, most important lesson of history. And it all happened within the span of a single living human lifetime. There are still people alive who survived these events. And the terribleness of these events was when peace came and that it was all over, the seminal lesson was never forget, never again. And so you have Stephen Miller on this very strange CNN interview where he stops talking immediately after he says the sentence, the president has plenary authority, which means absolute power. And then Stephen Miller in this interview just stops talking, realizing, I think, that he just said the quiet part out loud. And I could go into some detail about this, but the main point is this. The MAGA regime of Trump and Miller and Noem and Bondi are asserting powers that they do not possess as natural and normal for them to possess on the eve of them being used against the people in a democratic society, corresponding to the moment when you have senior administration officials saying, if you oppose Trump, you're a terrorist.
Yeah.
And that's Nazi language, because a Nazi holds that an opponent is a terrorist because they don't believe in democracy, freedom, dissent, liberty, or the right to disagree. And democracy is what keeps every person safe from the government jackboot. And that's what we're seeing collapse in real time under a blizzard of lies. It's a really terrifying moment. And you have to rationalize the terror while maintaining hope and faith that there have been other dark and terrible times that the country has endured through. And at the end of the day, Abraham Lincoln said, in the United States, with public opinion, anything is possible. Without it, nothing is possible. And so in a few days, we're going to see many scores of millions of people on the streets in these No Kings protests. And as the old song says, battle lines are being drawn. And what's going on is not exactly clear, but it's all coming to a head. I'm Steve Schmidt. This is The Warning. I invite you to join this community where I promise to be honest, blunt, and direct about what is happening in this country. America is in crisis. Follow and subscribe to this channel and on Substack. Thank you.